Allow me to introduce myself.
I am the last sane sports fan.
I am a genius by trade.
I just knew too much. Does that make me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Possibly.
Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to The View from the Midwest. Got a few topics I want to talk about today. Obviously, the main ones are going to be about the Women's World Cup, and there's also a little bit of NFL flavor to it as well. But let's get a couple quick-hitting topics out of the way first. First of all, just released today. It's still kind of a rumor, but somewhat official. It's kind of one of those worst-kept secrets in all of sports kind of deals. Andrea Pirlo is apparently going to sign with New York City FC. Those of you who don't know who he is, he's one of the best Italian midfielders of all time. He's got such a great touch. I would compare him to an Italian David Beckham. Just his passes are pinpoint. He's not necessarily as great with the long ball over the top, but just nicking a ball right through space that you didn't necessarily think was there. He's clinical on the ball. A good signing for MLS and NYCFC. He's a little bit older for my tastes. I liked the direction that MLS was going in terms of getting players that, yes, they might be towards the end of their career, but they're not at the end of their career. Pirlo's probably going to play 1 year, maybe two. And I just hope he realizes what he's getting into, because I think that's what a lot of these players don't understand. They think, okay, well, I'll go to America, I'll live the life for a year or two, get some money, and then that's it. It's like, MLS is a tough league. But you can say what you want about the skill, but MLS is one of the tough leagues out there in terms of physical punishment. You have to play in the summer in America. You have to travel all the way across the country. And it's a physical league. It's one of the more physical leagues this side of the Premier League. And I don't think a lot of players realize that. But still, I think it's a good signing for the league. The more name recognition you can get in without spending just over-the-moon type of money, the better off this league will be. Next thing, obviously, this seems to happen normally not with superstars, but every 4th of July, you hear about somebody blowing their hand off. Pierre-Paul of the New York Giants tried to do that. Apparently, he's got all his fingers intact. He may lose nerve damage or may have nerve damage in one finger or so. The medical reports are still sketchy right now. But listen, I come from an area that basically 90% of the people out there shoot off their own fireworks. And most people do it in a safe manner, but ultimately it's not a safe hobby. These things are meant to be set off by professionals that are using electric triggers to shoot fireworks off. It's not necessarily something that's meant to be done by your average Joe. That being said, it's never going to stop unless they somehow make it illegal, and then all of a sudden you'd have your entire police force on patrol the entire 4th of July weekend, and that's just never going to happen. So these kind of accidents are always going to be there. Pierre-Paul, I wish the best for him. I don't really care about the Giants in terms of fandom, but you don't want to see anybody's career affected by an injury like this. Last thing, kind of rotating back to soccer. Apparently, Rory McIlroy has injured his Achilles, or he tore something in his ankle, something like that, playing soccer. And I hope that these kind of injuries, whether it's the Paul injury or whether it's the Rory McIlroy injury, don't all of a sudden spring up a bunch of new contracts, whether it's from advertisers or whether it's from teams, if you play a team sport, to where nobody can do anything extracurricular. There are certain things where it's like, okay, I can understand if you put in the contract you're not allowed to go skydiving, you're not allowed to base jump off the Empire State Building, you're not allowed to go skateboarding down the I don't know, whatever. certain activities I can understand, but I just hope that this doesn't necessarily take away all extracurricular activities from athletes, because you have to be able to do something with your personal life. And it's a freak injury. I mean, there are tons of people who play pickup soccer who don't get hurt. I've seen a lot of players that I play with that have gotten hurt. So, I mean, it does happen. It's a contact sport. And I'm not sure how it happened with Mr. McElroy, but unfortunately, that's the risk you take when you play any kind of sport outside of golf, or really even if you do play golf, if you're not stretched out, if you turn the wrong way, put too much emphasis on the follow-through, so what have you, you can tear something in that as well. So rest up, get back playing majors. Best of luck to you in your recovery. It's going to be a nasty one. Anything with the ankle is not something that I would want to look forward to. On to the main topics, and we're going to try to keep these a little bit short. Obviously, big congratulations go out to the United States women's national team. 3 stars now on their jerseys. It's going to be a huge deal for them to finally get that monkey off their back, because this team is fairly young, but they're one of the older teams in the tournament, and there's a lot of players that were looking for their first World Cup. There was one player who played back in '99, Christy Rampone, and obviously she's got to be over the world to win her second. But everybody else, Abby Wambach, the big name in that one, Hope Solo, kind of in there as well. And I mean, you start throwing everybody else in there as well. But those were the 2 big names that were really kind of searching for it. Finally getting that monkey off their back, winning the Women's World Cup. All congratulations goes to them. But the question that I want to explore today is basically, there's always that extra thing, that extra little tidbit that comes out of these kind of tournaments, whether it was the Men's World Cup last summer or the Women's World Cup now. Will this bring any extra people into soccer? And sadly, I don't think it will. And I don't say that condescendingly, because I love the sport. I played the sport basically for large chunks of my entire life. I love watching it. I mean, I've gotten more and more into European soccer. For the longest time, I didn't care for it, but now it just kind of enthralls me. It takes up a big portion of my sporting life. But not everybody out there is like that. And we've seen this time and time again, even after the '99 World Cup, even after the '94 World Cup with the men, even after last year's World Cup. Soccer it's kind of like finger food. You take one here, that one looks good, and we'll pick up this one over here. That's kind of what soccer is in terms of picking up new fans. It'll always get new fans. It's slowly growing in this country. But I don't think you're ever going to have this just huge explosion where the entire country just all of a sudden starts watching soccer. And because of the World Cup, all of a sudden the NWSL ratings or the MLS ratings are just going to go through the roof. If you have a good matchup, people might tune in and want to watch that. Or if you have a big name, like if Cristiano Ronaldo ever came over, then obviously people are going to tune in for that. But soccer in this country, sadly, I believe is just always going to be a 4-year sport. I think it's gotten to the point now where people care about the national team, and that's huge. That's bigger than we had in the past. It was always a niche sport. It may continue to be so, but even if every 4 years you can get the people massed around TVs and cheering on their heroes on the national team, whether it's the women, whether it's the men, that is still good for the sport. That is good for the country, because it gets that Olympic flair in there. Obviously, everybody tunes in for the Olympics every 4 years, but you don't necessarily get people following figure skating in their off-season. You don't get people wondering, oh, I wonder what happened to that gymnast who did so well. What are they doing in their career? You don't know what swimming's doing. All this kind of stuff just kind of goes away in the national conscience. And unfortunately for those of us that love the sport and wanted to be up there with the NBAs and the NFLs, soccer just isn't that way in this country. Maybe sometime late in our lifetimes it will get to that point. But this World Cup isn't going to do it. The next Men's World Cup isn't going to do it. I don't want to sound sexist here. Maybe if the United States men won the World Cup, maybe then you'd see this explosion. But as I said, other than that, I think you're going to pick up a few people here. Oh, I might grab a few grapes there and a little bunch over here. You're going to pick up people every single time, but it's just never going to be this mass explosion. But we've seen a great uptick in the fan attendance at any kind of stuff, and it's good to see. People are getting into the sport. Don't let me give you the wrong impression. People are coming to soccer. It's just soccer will always kind of be that NHL level. It's going to be hardcore fan base. You got people that love it, worship it passionately, but the outsiders, they're like, I don't know. But in the end, that's really not all that bad. As long as the sport continues to grow, as long as it continues to pick up people, as long as it remains viable in the United States to have professional leagues, whether it's the NWSL for the women or the MLS for the men, that is a good thing. And nothing can really take that away. That is the view from the Midwest. Ran a little bit long today. Sorry about that. Tend to do that when I talk about more than one thing. But what are your views on today's topics? Comment, rate, and subscribe on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up. If you're watching on Facebook, leave a comment there as well. But until the next time, I'll see you then.
I remember